Welcome to My YouTube channel, your trusted source for natural health, longevity, gut healing, and anti-aging nutrition. If you want practical, research-based wellness tips inspired by functional medicine, subscribe now and join thousands taking control of their health naturally. A grandmother whispers the same story for the third time at dinner, and another senior insists the neighbors are stealing from him. To outsiders, these moments look odd, even funny. But behind each one lies a deeper, unsettling truth about aging that almost no one talks about. Scientists now warn that by age 65, nearly 8 in 10 seniors will develop habits or behaviors that embarrass families, damage relationships, or quietly signal serious decline. Yet, these changes are brushed off as just getting old. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on the 12 unpleasant things seniors do as they age that no one ever tells you about. Some will shock you, some will make you uncomfortable. But when we reach number 5, you'll see why what looks like a small social slip is actually one of the clearest warnings that independence may soon be gone. Every single reference I mentioned to date is already linked in the description below. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. How old are you? And what's the most surprising change you've noticed in yourself or a loved one after 60? Drop it in the comments. We read every story like it's part of this documentary, and sometimes your answers are even more eye-opening than the research. Now, without any further ado, let's start with number 12, and it might be more dangerous than you ever imagined. Number 12, forgetting personal hygiene routines. One of the earliest and most unpleasant changes many families notice in seniors is a sudden slip in personal hygiene. Showers get skipped, clothes aren't changed as often, brushing teeth becomes irregular. At first, it might seem like laziness or stubbornness, but science shows it's often a deeper sign of aging brain function and declining executive control, the part of the brain responsible for organizing daily routines. For instance, Edith, 74, once took pride in her crisp blouses and neat hair, but her daughter began noticing that she wore the same clothes for days and often forgot to brush her teeth at night. This isn't just about appearances. Poor hygiene increases the risk of infections, gum disease, and even pneumonia since bacteria from the mouth can travel into the lungs. Seniors with memory decline may not feel the discomfort of dirty clothes or notice strong bores because sensory perception dulls with age. Add arthritis or mobility challenges, and suddenly what used to be a 5-minute task feels like climbing a mountain. Researchers at Harvard found that seniors who neglected hygiene were also 3 times more likely to be in the early stages of dementia compared to those who kept routines intact. That's why paying attention to hygiene is critical, not just for comfort, but as an early warning signal for cognitive decline. So while it might feel unpleasant or embarrassing to point out that a loved one isn't showering or brushing anymore, it can literally be a life-saving conversation, because behind that forgotten toothbrush or unwashed shirt, the brain may be quietly sounding an alarm. And if forgetting hygiene can be such a red flag, the next unpleasant behavior is just as startling. Number 11, talking loudly without realizing it. Have you ever noticed an older relative suddenly raising their voice, almost shouting, even though no one else in the room is? Many seniors begin talking loudly without realizing it. And while it may seem like a harmless quirk, it's usually a sign of something deeper. As we age, the tiny hair cells inside the inner ear start to die off, a process called presbycusis. These cells don't regenerate, so hearing loss creeps in slowly, often without the person noticing. When you can't hear your own voice clearly, you naturally speak louder. A large study in the Journal of the American Academy of Audiology showed that nearly 2/3 of adults over 70 experience some level of hearing loss, yet fewer than 20% use hearing aids. That gap leaves millions of seniors unknowingly raising their voices in social settings, sometimes causing embarrassment or misunderstandings with family. Beyond the social awkwardness, talking loudly without realizing it can have serious consequences. Untreated hearing loss is linked to higher risks of depression, social withdrawal, and even cognitive decline. A study published in The Lancet found that seniors with untreated hearing loss had a 30% higher chance of developing dementia. Why? Because straining to hear constantly overworks the brain, diverting energy away from memory and thinking. So while Voices might feel like just another old age habit. The truth is, they could be a warning that both hearing and brain health are slipping. And if a voice that grows too loud can quietly reveal so much, the next change is even stranger because it shows up in the mirror and leaves seniors unsettled every single morning. Number 10, hoarding old items and junk. It starts small. A stack of newspapers, a closet full of worn clothes, a drawer stuffed with old receipts. But for many seniors, hoarding slowly takes over the home. What looks like a quirky attachment to old things is often a deeper sign of how the aging brain handles memory, anxiety, and loss. Seniors hold on to objects because they fear forgetting or because the things feel like anchors in a world that's changing too fast. When her daughter visited, 75-year-old Lillian defended the mountain of plastic bags piled in her kitchen, insisting they were too useful to throw away someday. The risks go far beyond clutter. Hoarding creates fire hazards, fall risks, and even infestations that can turn dangerous for aging immune systems. It also strains family relationships. Loved ones may feel frustrated or helpless while the senior feels attacked or judged. This isolation can worsen depression, creating a vicious cycle where the more they hoard, the lonelier they become. So, while piles of old magazines or broken appliances may seem harmless, they're often silent cries for stability, comfort, and control in a stage of life full of uncertainty. And if clinging to clutter can become a hidden danger, the next unpleasant change is just as surprising. Number 9, repeating the same stories over and over. Every family has lived through it. A senior relative tells the same story again and again, sometimes even in the same conversation. At first, it feels charming or nostalgic, but over time, it can become frustrating. The truth is, repeating stories is one of the most common yet misunderstood signs of aging. Here's the science. As the brain ages, the hippocampus, the memory center, shrinks. Studies show that by age 70, it can be as much as 20% smaller than in young adults. That means storing new information becomes harder while old, long-term memories remain strong. Seniors may vividly remember childhood events, but can't recall what they ate for lunch yesterday. To fill the gap, they circle back to familiar stories. During a Sunday visit, David, 81, told his grandson the tale of his first car 3 times in 2 hours without realizing he had already shared it. A study from the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease found that seniors who repeat stories frequently are twice as likely to later develop mild cognitive impairment or dementia compared to those who don't. That doesn't mean every repeated story is dangerous, but it does signal that the brain is struggling to encode new memories. And the repetition isn't just about memory, it's also about comfort. Reliving familiar stories gives seniors a sense of identity and control in a world that often feels unpredictable. So while repeating the same story might sound like harmless chatter, it's often the brain sending a quiet warning signal. And if words can give away hidden struggles, the next unpleasant change reveals itself. Number 8, eating with noisy chewing habits. One of the more uncomfortable changes that families notice in aging loved ones is noisy chewing. Smacking lips, chewing with the mouth open, or making exaggerated crunching sounds during meals can feel unpleasant or even rude. But for many seniors, it's not intentional. It's the body changing in ways most people never talk about. Here's why it happens. As people age, the muscles of the jaw and tongue lose strength. Teeth wear down, dental problems appear, and dentures don't always fit properly. Add in reduced saliva production, common after age 60, and chewing becomes harder. Seniors may open their mouths wider or chew more forcefully just to manage the food. A study published in the Journal of Oral Rehabilitation showed that over 40% of adults over 65 struggle with chewing efficiency, leading to louder, less controlled eating habits. Noisy chewing is more than a social inconvenience. It's often a warning sign of oral health decline. Poor chewing efficiency can lead to larger, less digested food particles, straining the stomach and increasing the risk of indigestion. It can also cause seniors to avoid tougher, healthier foods like raw vegetables and lean meats, raising the risk of malnutrition. Worst, jaw muscle weakness and dental pain can reduce confidence in eating around others, pushing seniors toward isolation at meal times. So while noisy chewing may trigger irritation or jokes, it's a sign worth paying attention to because behind the sound is a mouth and body struggling to keep up with age. And if chewing loudly is unpleasant to hear, the next change can be even harder to face because it comes from the way seniors' bodies start to smell without them even realizing it. Number 7, ignoring strange body odors. One of the most uncomfortable changes that aging brings, though rarely talked about, is the way the body starts to smell different. Seniors sometimes ignore these strange odors, or worse, don't even notice them. Scientists call this non-no, often described as a greasy or musty scent, which becomes stronger with age. Unlike sweat, it doesn't wash away easily with soap because it comes from fatty acids breaking down in the skin. For instance, Evelyn, 76, loved inviting her bridge group over, but her friends started making excuses to leave early, bothered by the musty smell in her home that she couldn't detect herself. Beyond embarrassment, ignoring strange odors can signal health problems. Liver disease can cause a sweet, musty scent. Kidney problems may create a fishy odor. Diabetes sometimes produces a fruity smell on the breath. When seniors dismiss these odors as just aging, they may overlook early warning signs of serious illness. There's also a social cost. Body odor, when unnoticed, can lead to stigma, isolation, or even mistreatment in care settings. 4. Seniors already at risk of loneliness. This creates another painful barrier to connection. Families often feel awkward bringing it up, but honesty can prevent much bigger problems later. So, while ignoring unusual odors may seem like a small or embarrassing issue, it's really the body whispering that something is off. And if scent can be such a subtle yet powerful signal, the next unpleasant change is just as striking. Before we continue, lock in your spot by hitting like and subscribe. The health truth you need is right after this. Number 6, falling asleep in social settings. It can be jarring to watch an older loved one nod off in the middle of a lively conversation at church or even during a family dinner. Many seniors fall asleep in social settings without realizing it, and while people often laugh it off, the science shows this isn't just about being tired. It's the brain and body struggling to regulate sleep as they age. As we get older, the production of melatonin, the hormone that signals sleep, declines sharply. Sleep cycles become lighter and more fragmented, leaving seniors less rested at night. Added medications, chronic pain, or conditions like sleep apnea and daytime sleepiness becomes inevitable. A study in sleep medicine found that more than 32% of adults over 65 regularly experience excessive daytime sleepiness, which often leads to unplanned naps in public places. During his granddaughter's school recital, 72-year-old Robert suddenly dozed off in his chair, jolting awake to whispers and stares from the audience. Falling asleep in social situations has ripple effects. It can embarrass seniors, damage their confidence, and make family or friends assume they're disinterested. More importantly, daytime sleepiness is strongly linked to cognitive decline. Researchers at Stanford found that older adults who regularly nodded off during the day were 2 times more likely to develop dementia within 5 years. The brain's sleep-wake control centers weaken with age, and those lapses show up not just at home, but in public moments that matter. So, while drifting off in public may seem like a harmless quirk, it's a sign that sleep health and brain health deserve closer attention. And if unexpected sleep can interrupt a family gathering, the next unpleasant change can be just as disruptive because it often involves sudden, unpredictable shifts in mood. Number 5, complaining constantly about minor issues. One of the most unpleasant changes families notice in aging loved ones is constant complaining. Seniors may fixate on the food being too cold, the TV too loud, or a neighbor's dog barking 2 houses away. At first, it feels like nitpicking, but in reality, science shows there's much more behind this shift than personality. As the brain ages, emotional regulation changes. The prefrontal cortex, which normally helps us filter irritations, weakens. At the same time, stress hormones like cortisol remained higher for longer after small triggers, leaving seniors more sensitive to discomfort. A study in psychology and aging found that older adults were 37% more likely to interpret neutral events as negative compared to younger adults, showing how the brain's emotional filter gets skewed. At breakfast, 71-year-old Martha spent 10 minutes complaining about the butter being too hard to spread, leaving her daughter both amused and exhausted. This pattern isn't just annoying, it has health consequences. Constant complaining often signals underlying depression or anxiety, which affects nearly 20% of seniors over 65, according to the CDC. It can also be fueled by chronic pain, hearing loss, or loneliness, making small frustrations feel overwhelming. Unfortunately, the more seniors complain, the more family members may pull back, creating isolation that deepens the cycle. So, while it may seem like harmless grumbling, constant complaining is often the body's way of releasing stress it can't regulate anymore. And when ignored, it can fuel health decline and social disconnection. And if small, complaints can grow into such a heavy burden, the next unpleasant change is even more alarming because it often shows up in the bathroom where seniors' bodies reveal something most never want to talk about. Number 4, becoming overly suspicious or paranoid. It can be heartbreaking to watch an aging parent or grandparent suddenly grow suspicious of the very people who love them most. Seniors may insist that someone is stealing their belongings, that neighbors are watching them, or even that family members are plotting against them. What looks like irrational paranoia often has its roots in real changes happening inside the aging brain. As neurons decline, particularly in the frontal and temporal lobes, the brain struggles with reasoning and memory. Seniors may misplace objects, but genuinely believe someone took them. They may forget conversations and assume people are lying. A study in the American Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry found that nearly 25% of seniors with cognitive decline experience paranoid delusions, especially in the early stages of dementia or Alzheimer's. One evening, 79-year-old Clara accused her son of stealing her wallet, only to later find it tucked inside a coat pocket she had forgotten about. These suspicions aren't just unsettling, they damage trust and relationships. Family members may feel hurt or defensive, while seniors feel increasingly isolated in a world they believe is against them. Sometimes medications, such as those for Parkinson's or mood disorders, can worsen paranoia by altering brain chemistry. Sleep deprivation and hearing loss also make seniors more prone to misinterpretations, turning shadows into threats and whispers into conspiracies. So, while becoming overly suspicious may seem like an unpleasant personality shift, it's often a flashing red light for deeper neurological decline. And if the mind can play tricks so powerful they shatter trust, the next unpleasant change is just as distressing. Number 3, losing control of bodily sounds, gas burps. It's one of the most embarrassing changes aging brings. Uncontrollable gas burping at the wrong time, or stomach noises that erupt without warning. Seniors often joke about it to hide the shame. But the truth is, these bodily sounds are signs of changes in the gut and muscles that no one ever warns you about. As we age, the digestive system slows down, stomach acid decreases, food takes longer to break down, and the muscles that morally keep air and gas in check lose their strength. That means more swallowing of air, more fermentation of food, and less control over what escapes. A study in Digestive Diseases and Sciences found that 41% of adults over 65 reported frequent bloating, gas, or belching that disrupted daily life. During a church service, 70-year-old Frank turned bright red when a sudden loud burp escaped mid him, earning chuckles he wished he could forget. While it may seem like a harmless annoyance, uncontrolled gas and burping can actually signal more serious issues like bacterial overgrowth, poor bowel flow, or even early liver and pancreatic dysfunction. More importantly, the embarrassment often leads seniors to withdraw from social settings, skipping meals with family or church gatherings to avoid humiliation. Over time, this isolation chips away at both emotional and physical health. So, while losing control of bodily sounds might feel like a small, unpleasant part of aging, it's really a loud reminder that the gut, muscles, and nerves are changing. And if the body can embarrass seniors this way, the next change is even harder to face because it strikes at the very center of independence: bladder and bathroom control. Number 2, struggling with incontinence in public. Few things steal dignity faster than losing control of the bladder or bowels in public. For many seniors, incontinence creeps in quietly. First, a small leak when coughing or sneezing, then sudden urges that can't be held back. What starts as a private issue often turns into a humiliating public reality. The science is clear. With age, the pelvic floor muscles weaken, the bladder becomes less elastic, and nerve signals that control urination slow down. Add in conditions like diabetes, prostate issues, or medications such as diuretics, and the risk rises sharply. According to the National Association for Continence, over 50% of women and nearly 25% of men over 65 experience some form of incontinence, yet most never talk about it out of shame. One afternoon at the grocery store, 72-year-old Helen felt a sudden warmth down her leg. She rushed out, leaving her cart behind, vowing never to shop alone again. What families need to understand is that incontinence isn't just part of aging. It's a medical condition with treatments and strategies that can restore dignity and confidence. Ignoring it only deepens the cycle of shame and withdrawal. So, while struggling with incontinence in public may be one of the most unpleasant experiences seniors face, it's not the end of independence. But if this feels difficult, the final change is even more devastating because it affects the body or confidence. Number 1, oversharing private health details. Perhaps the most surprising and uncomfortable change of all is when seniors begin oversharing personal health details in public. They might talk openly about their bowel movements at the dinner table, describe medical procedures to strangers in line at the bank, or announce embarrassing diagnosis in front of acquaintances. Families often cringe, but for many older adults, this shift isn't about rudeness. It's about changes in the brain and emotions. As people age, the frontal lobes, the region responsible for self-monitoring and social filters, lose volume. This makes it harder to recognize what's socially appropriate. At the same time, loneliness and the desire for connection pushed seniors to share personal details as a way of being heard. A 2019 study in aging and mental health found that older adults who reported higher levels of isolation were twice as likely to overshare private information in casual settings. For them, talking about health struggles isn't oversharing. It's a way of saying, I'm still here and I need someone to listen. This behavior, while awkward, carries meaning. Oversharing can reveal anxiety, fear of decline, or even cognitive impairment. It can also be a coping mechanism for loss of control. When a body feels unpredictable, talking about it openly can feel like taking power back. Families often react with embarrassment, but shaming or silencing can deepen loneliness and damage trust. Instead, experts recommend gently redirecting or listening with empathy while setting boundaries. Oversharing private health details is a reminder that aging doesn't just change the body, it reshapes how seniors communicate, seek comfort, and connect with others. It may feel unpleasant or awkward, but it's also a human attempt to cope with vulnerability in the final chapters of life. Aging is not just about gray hair and wrinkles. It's about the quiet, often unpleasant changes that sneak into daily life, from forgetting to shower to oversharing private health details. Each of these 12 truths reveals how fragile both the body and mind become after 60. But here's the most important part. None of these changes mean dignity has to be lost. When families notice the signs early and respond with patience and empathy, seniors can keep their independence and self-respect for far longer than they think. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you noticed any of these changes in your own life or in someone close to you? Share your story in the comments. We are reading every single one. Your experience might be the exact thing another viewer needs to hear tonight. If you found this video eye-opening, don't keep it to yourself. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with your family and friends, because the more we talk openly about aging, the less power these struggles have to isolate or shame the people we love most. Got questions or something to share? Drop it in the comments. We read them all. Thanks for watching.